Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Fiber Broadband Association's Fiber for Breakfast. We're now in our 5th episode of 2023, and welcome to February. Before we kick off, I'd like to thank Wesco, the platinum sponsor of Fiber for Breakfast, and our gold sponsors, Nokia and Vetro. You know, we couldn't do this without your wonderful support, so thank you guys for your support. Tomorrow, the Senate Commerce Committee will have their first executive session of the year. You know, we're still waiting to hear how the committee is going to be organized, but we expect to see announcements on subcommittees sometime today. Yesterday, the House Energy and Commerce Committee held their organizing meeting, and Chair McMorris Rogers' introductory remarks touched on the committee's long history of bipartisanship. This makes the Fiber Broadband Association very optimistic that we'll see bipartisan proposals coming out of the committee this year, especially in the critical areas of permitting. Last week, the FCC announced best practices for bulk challenges to the FCC Broadband Data Map Fabric. Challenges to the fabric need to be submitted by March 15th to be included in Fabric 3, which will be released on June 30th. You can find more information on the FCC's website. Before we get started, I'd also like to remind everybody that our first regional Fiber Connect workshop is next week. It's going to be held in Raleigh, North Carolina on Tuesday, February 7th. The event is completely sold out, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So if you didn't get in this event, I suggest you register today for our next Fiber Connect workshop, which will be held in Oklahoma City on April 6th. Oklahoma City is going to be very special because we're going to be focusing on tribal broadband. That brings us today's Fiber for Breakfast session with Jody Craft, the president of LiveOak Fiber. Jody's going to share with us his team's experience and insights on building the internet the way it should be. But before I formally introduce today's guests, I'd like to introduce Trish Ehlers from our team, who's going to walk us through some housekeeping items.
Thank you, Gary, and good morning to everyone who's joined us today. Before I go over a few logistical items, we'd like to once again thank the platinum sponsor of Fiber for Breakfast, Wesco, and our gold sponsors, Nokia and Vetro. Now, if everyone would keep in mind that you're all in listen mode only, to ask a question, you can just type it into the question box located within your control panel on the right side of your screen. We'll host a Q&A session with our panelists at the end of today's session. This presentation is being recorded and will be available to members only on FBA's website within 24 hours. You can find the recording in the Events tab under the Fiber for Breakfast drop-down option. At the conclusion of the presentation, you'll be prompted to complete a brief feedback survey. Please take a minute to do so. We truly appreciate your input. I'll pass it back to Gary now to introduce our panelists and get us started. Gary.
Thanks, Trish, and good morning. I'm Gary Bolton, the president and CEO of the Fiber Broadband Association. Last week on Fiber for Breakfast, we heard from my good friend and mentor, Joe Costello, the CEO of QuickBit Internet. That was a really fun session on fiber to the trailer park. Who knew the aggregate population of trailer parks, if that was the state, it would be the 3rd largest state behind California and Texas and ahead of Florida. You know, trailer parks are an important market segment that needs to be connected to close the digital divide. That brings us to today's Fiber for Breakfast session with Jody Craft, the president of LiveOak Fiber. Jody's going to share with us his team's experience and insight on building the internet the way it should be. With nearly 3 decades of communications experience from the boardroom to the backhoe, Jody brings unique abilities, insights, and energy to LiveOak Fiber as its president. A U.S. Air Force veteran, he has led teams in all aspects of the telecommunications industry, including product and technology strategy, network operations, complex product management, and general management. Jody's industry accomplishments include leading the development and build and operations of the industry's first wholesale and retail MPLS service platforms, and overseeing the engineering and network operation functions for one of the original 6 national internet backbones. In 2015, Jody co-founded a telecommunications consultancy, Ronin Technology Advisors, which helped more than 10 FTTx Service Provider owners and executives develop and execute successful business plans. Joining LiveOak Fiber leadership team in 2022, Jody served as the CTO of Ritter Communications and head of operations at Budget Prepay and executive vice president of global IP development at Deutsche Telekom. So welcome, Jody, and for our audience, please type in your questions as we go, and we'll hit those in the Q&A session at the end. So let's get things started, and I'll turn it over to Jody.
Gary, thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be here, and never going to miss an opportunity to talk about LiveOak or fiber to the prem broadband. So, what a great pleasure it is to be here. So, want to tell you a little bit about LiveOak today. We are a startup broadband provider in Florida and Georgia. We formed the company in July. We're backed by an infrastructure fund, Infrared Capital Partners, and a great team has been formed to really address the needs in these rural Florida and Georgia markets, and we're off to a raging start, right? So our markets are the Emerald Coast of Florida, which is we're starting in Okaloosa County, which is Destin, Fort Walton Beach, Niceville, Crestview. It's a high growth area in the Panhandle. And then also in the Golden Isles of Georgia, which is we're starting in Glynn County, which comprises Brunswick, St. Simon Island, Sea Island, and Jekyll Island, and we're moving into Camden County, which the primary town there is Kingsland, so a big part of Southeast Georgia. So in general, we believe that, small town America has been underserved, so we're trying to bring affordable connectivity to these areas. These areas were really impacted during the pandemic, and it became obvious to everyone that the digital infrastructure in these areas weren't up to speed to be able to support remote learning and the applications that are needed at homes during situations like this. So it really drew us to these areas to build and address these market needs, and the acceptance by these communities has been, absolutely wonderful. So, how we're going to differentiate ourselves in the market, Gary, we feel is threefold. First of all, it's all greenfield. What we're building, we don't have legacy infrastructures that we have to retrofit. We don't have to, compromise their service offering by last generation technologies. We're deploying the latest technologies. We're going to be offering 10 gigabits per second to all the homes and businesses in these regions. Secondly, we're focused on the in-home experience. We're in a device-laden world now. Our refrigerators are talking, our cameras are talking at our front doors, our televisions are all connected devices, as well as our personal devices like our watches and things. So we feel like not only by bringing fiber to the premises at a very high rate of speed, but giving a customer an exceptional Wi-Fi experience internally with the great controls needed by many families is a massive differentiator for us. And then the third thing that we're really focused on is local service. And I think that's a differentiator for companies like us. All of our technicians are on staff. All of our support representatives are local. The experience that our customers are going to receive is a local resource to address their needs and be responsive in their market instead of at some remote facility as a large provider would have to do. And we're a company that's built on a why statement of we're here to improve the quality of life of the communities we serve. So that is our main focus, and we're values driven company. Our favorite saying is profitability is the reward for a job well done. And that's how the entire company is approaching our service mission and our customer support mission. Is we want to do the best job that we absolutely can for our customers, and we know success will follow. So I want to tell you a little bit about how we got here, the journey. Go to the next one. So we, by forming in July, we were a complete startup. I believe we're the largest broadband startup in the U.S. right now. We received, which is terrifying if you think about it, but we were three great friends who have worked together the last 20 years. We had a great consulting firm at Ronin, where we got to really understand the landscape very well. Prior to that, we were at Ritter, where we were quite successful in building out Ritter's infrastructure. Ritter continues on to those successes today. And we felt like in the market, the current offerings were not at the best way to say it is, I felt like the current offerings weren't pushing exactly what the technology can do. 10 gig is possible today. Why not do 10 gig services? We feel like the customer experience is lacking in many areas for these rural communities. As I mentioned, it's usually a remote call center. It's usually a remote resource that has to support them. I know in our markets in Florida and Georgia, they suffer multi-day outages, with their current providers, as the providers cannot be completely responsive to getting to those smaller markets and supporting them. And I also felt like that the current offerings that were available from the incumbents weren't very clear for our customers. They had setup charges, they have a monthly recurring charge, and there's many fees that were accomplished around that on top of that. So it kept the consumer actually kind of guessing around what they were paying fully each month for their broadband. So we really wanted to tackle it a different way. First of all, we wanted to be rural. You hear my accent. I'm born in rural areas in the South, and we have a real heart for the South. So in the Southeast, these markets that we're focused on, we want to address this digital divide in these rural markets. And the areas that we're planning to expand in is not, Miami, it's not Charlotte, it's going to be tertiary markets, much like what we're focused on today, where we can make an impact. The team and I were part of building one of the first, or supporting one of the first telehealth networks in Arkansas in the country, and we got to see, firsthand the difference that makes for these rural communities, because things like healthcare access is one of the greatest challenges in these regional communities to get, specialized doctors and specialized healthcare in a town of 50,000. It's very, very difficult, but these telehealth applications that we can enable with this infrastructure brings that quality of care from these major cities into these tertiary markets. The same goes for learning opportunities. The same goes for, entertainment, which, there is a value placed on it evidently. So, the entertainment value of a great connection is also important to us. So our offering is very clean. Our pricing has no hidden fees. We give you the absolute latest technology speeds that are available, and we'll continue that promise as we move forward. That's what a fiber infrastructure allows us to do, is grow and evolve, with the main expense of the plant being already paid for, and then we're upgrading optics on top of that as this evolution continues. And the team that we've assembled is exceptional. I have this thing, I'm trying to bring in world-class management that's experienced in international and national telecom operators, and hiring local leaders that we can train, that have a commitment to the communities, that born and raised in the communities, that are members of the community, that we can then cater our services to our exact communities that we're serving, and not just a generic type offering that you would see from everyone else. We can go to the next slide. So let's talk a bit about these communities and how we're impacting them. We're going to start off in these two areas in Florida and Georgia. As I pointed out, for this map for everyone to see, Glynn County is right above Jacksonville, Florida. It's about an hour drive from Jacksonville, and that's where we began construction this week, actually on Monday. We have 2 crews right now going wide open in Glynn County, and then in Okaloosa County, we began construction last November, and we are very active in Okaloosa County in the Shalimar area today, and we're expanding to Crestview and Blue Water Bay here in the next month. But we have 15 crews scaling to 30 crews there, so very, very rapid deployments and warm reception from those communities. World-class communities. They both have they have millions of visitors in the summer to their beaches. They have great local residents with a great cross-section of every kind of income level, every kind of customer type, so that we're able to address everything across the digital divide for these communities. And we're making a $150 million capital commitment to build these out. So our partners given us this allocation to do this, and it's going very well, and we hope to actually finish these build outs by early next year. And time is now. Why do it? It's clearly the time to build out broadband. All the indicators from the government, which we're not Our business plan does not rely on BEAD, but the demand is in the market right now for high quality broadband in these tertiary markets where maybe the incumbents have not used their maintenance dollars to the best benefit of the customer. So we're located in these markets. So we're not in Jacksonville serving Brunswick. We're actually headquartered in Brunswick, Georgia. Wonderful town. It's county seat for Glynn County. We also have an office in Niceville, Florida, which is in Okaloosa County, that we've staffed. We now have 45 employees at these locations. We've added in the last 3 months, so the growth's been fantastic for the company. And then, we're going to bring 100 additional jobs over the next couple of years to these markets as well. And, being someone who grew up in the country, the military basically got me out and began my education path, but we want to give these career opportunities to these communities. We want a legacy telephone company like ourselves, or a broadband company like ourselves, to be able to create careers, create new jobs that are life jobs, that are lifetime careers in these markets. And therefore we're offering, very competitive salaries. We're offering training programs, and the recruiting efforts just been outstanding. We're going to continue to hire for, all of our installation, engineering, and central functions moving forward for the next year. Also, we're excited about the nutrition labels that are coming out that the FCC is requiring moving down. We feel like this is great for a fiber broadband provider. We couldn't ask for a better gift, right? Where we have to be honest about the quality of our service, the pricing of our service, and setting expectations with the customer. The technologies that we're relying on in our partner Calix, we feel like we can, absolutely meet whatever nutrition label we put out there, and we're happy that I expect our nutrition label to be one of the smallest ones that are there. Our pricing is flat rate. You get everything in that pricing. And our speeds that we offer, we absolutely stand behind what the customer can access. I don't have concerns for, massive oversubscription of nodes and things like this. So we're excited to move ahead with these broadband labels and kind of help demystify, the market for the consumer that's looking for broadband answers, and couldn't ask for a better thing than this. So we're so excited to begin to adopt this program. That's it. That's LiveOak.
Well, Jody, this is great stuff. Tell me, you guys are just like brand new. I mean, July was yesterday, and yes. You're already up and rolling in 2 big areas. So tell me about your model. I mean, it seems kind of that you really pick some challenging locations, right? Because you're picking areas that are incredibly rural, yet they have a coastal frontage, which is, high rise and all that. So is that your model, or how do you pick your locations?
We really picked our locations on the areas of greatest needs in the Southeast. We were looking at where a lot of construction programs from other providers are being done. We obviously don't want to build fiber where people are building fiber. We looked at where RDOF around were won by up and coming providers, so that we didn't have overlap for that, so we could address areas of great need. And the next thing was really how much the county was interested in upgrading their digital infrastructure, how much support we could get from them. We didn't ask for any financial support. We only asked for resolutions of support to say, we'd like you here. But by doing so, it enables us to come in and work with them quickly to put the infrastructure in place. I can put as many construction crews together as I want, but if I can't get locates, or if I can't get permits in the local areas, it's going to make it very difficult for us to deploy capital and support digital infrastructure upgrades in those areas. So we found Okaloosa County has one of the most active chambers of commerce, active econ dev groups we've come across in the country, really, and they needed this infrastructure, and they really welcomed us into that fold, as well as Glynn County. Glynn County is a great county that also has high growth. We've seen 6% growth in population growth in Glynn County in the last 2 years, and we've seen 17% population growth in Crestview in the northern part of Okaloosa. So these growing communities needed this adequate broadband. So that's really what attracted us to these areas to begin. the areas we're going to expand into will continue to be rural. I don't always know if they'll be coastal. It just happened that we ended up this way, and we're very happy about it. I'm a new resident of St. Simon Island in Georgia, and it's a beautiful place. So we're thrilled about that. But we really want to address the rural need. So you might not be able to see water from our future markets, but you'll see plenty of trees.
Well, you did pick two of the most beautiful places in the country to start your builds, and so that
Right.
That kind of leads into one of the questions that came in is that to what extent do you really consider the local governments willing to minimize red tape in selecting markets? It sounded like that's really important to you.
It's huge. It's huge. Well, absolutely. It's always a large role for anybody trying to do a fiber project that they have local support from the local government and everyone. But, given the size of our capital allotment, I have to really expand capital quickly to meet my business plan. So, it's like Brewster's Millions. At times we joke it's $150 million is very hard to spend on fiber quickly, because you need that partnership. So it was critical for us to have that right kind of support. But it's always a piece, whether you're deploying $1 million in capital or $150 million in capital. If you don't have local partners to help you understand the process, to help communicate to you their needs very clearly, and plan with you, you're always going to have kind of an uphill battle, really deploying your capital effectively.
So with all this federal, state, and local money out, ARPA and CAA and BEAD and RUS and
Yeah.
RDOF, and I mean, there's just
Yeah.
$130 billion. So
Right.
why are you funding this all on your own? I mean, what's the thought process here?
Well, I mean, if the markets support overbuilding, there shouldn't be a need for government support. I mean, we welcome the government support mechanism. I've done rural broadband for the last 12 years, and it's needed. There are very high cost areas to serve homes with very low density, that these homes will never see adequate broadband unless there's some kind of subsidy. So I think those programs are wonderful, and I think they're going to be useful to these areas that can't be served. But the areas that we chose were financially viable for a business plan. If we were able to just penetrate an adequate amount of these markets, we get a return. So why, leverage government dollars or tax dollars to do something that pays for itself? Let's use those dollars where they're actually needed to truly subsidize, build costs.
So like, if I picture like Okaloosa Island or Destin or any of these places, tons of condos and high-rise along the beach.
Right,
Are you
right.
pulling fiber to the building and then letting the tenant figure out how to get it to all the units in there, or how are you getting that Wi-Fi experience to everybody?
We're trying to actually we're doing a building fiber deployment where they get a Wi-Fi router in each of their units. We're trying to partner with the condo owners and the HOAs to accomplish this. But the quality of our service goes all the way to the user. The experience of our service goes all the way to the user. So we definitely want to manage all the infrastructure all the way to the customer's location or the business location in the high rise, and that's it. We have a team of two that's dedicated to developing MDUs, as it is a large part of our market in Florida and Georgia.
You're pulling fiber up the riser then, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, where possible. Older buildings, you have challenges there. So there's quite a few fiber products now, aesthetically, that work very well on high rises. Thank God for the large market deployments have driven this technology, right? So we're able to leverage this in the smaller markets now for these older buildings. But yeah, pull fiber in the riser, or pull fiber outside the building in a some kind of aesthetically pleasing way, where you can then bring it in the building and serve the tenants.
A number of questions on how you raised money. So basically, that was just on the your experience of your management team.
A number of things. First of all, it was the experience of the management team. We actually didn't originally pursue this with IRCP as a business plan, more as a consulting partner to IRCP, and we understood kind of the investment thesis, the desires of the fund of what they wanted to make investments for here in the U.S. And we were able to match a business plan with their investment desires, as far as it being greenfield, it being markets that are actually underserved, that competition could be welcomed in, things like this. And so we were able to, identify the right kind of markets, put together a very comprehensive business plan that could pass, heavy due diligence, let's be honest. And then the other was the strength of the management team, that IRCP could have confidence. We've done large projects, we've built these fiber projects, and we could demonstrate those successes to them, so that they have confidence to put this kind of backing to us. That's exactly right.
And with $150 million, the questions come in as, how many homes do you expect to pass with that level of budget?
Right. Well, if the price goes up of construction, the count goes down, but we're targeting 80 to 100,000 passings in this first capital allotment.
Okay, and then you'll see follow-on investment after that.
Yeah,
you guys
absolutely.
So you're just going to keep running and raising money as you. And so what is to be able to start servicing? Well, so this is all equity, right? You're not taking on any debt, or?
No, not right, not yet. I mean, if the debt market obviously improves and there's opportunity for us to do that, then yeah, we want to leverage debt when it's feasible. But right now we're really trying to establish that we're a team capable of efficiently deploying capital quickly. We can do 10 million a month, and construction is really what we're targeting right now to exit this quarter. And we want to show that basically, if it's a marathon, we're a marathon runner that keeps the right kind of pace for the investor, and they see the right kind of results at the finish line. That's really what we're focused on and demonstrating with this first 150.
Now, are you? The area is very diverse, as we talked about. So, because once you get off the beach, it gets to be very rural very quick, and
right,
a lot of ag, and the density goes way down, and you're offering 10 gig PON, XGS PON.
Right.
So what, is there a density model or a cost per home passed, or how do you determine, like, once you hit the kind of high density areas, or is that what you're doing? You start with high density and moving out, or are you kind of hitting a mix of everything? And
yeah, we're actually hitting a mix. We're really, working with an open hand with these counties. When we came in, the concerns of the counties was we would gravitate to the tourist areas and not address the people who lived in these counties, right? Who were commuting into the resort areas, the high density areas. They lived in rural areas, personally. And so we actually started in Shalimar, which has, I think, one hotel, and it has a number of, military retirees and service workers in the community in Shalimar. And then we're moving to, Crestview, which is, again, a very, very rural area of Okaloosa County. So we're trying to address those needs there, because the business plan as a whole for the county gives us the results that we want, but we're trying to do high density as well as rural at the same time as we're feathering these in, so that we're addressing the population. Just because you live in a more rural area doesn't necessarily mean you don't deserve great broadband. And if the area is dense enough to provide an adequate return, we can offset that with a much richer return we're seeing in the denser areas, so we're able to serve the community as a whole. I think where we would get in trouble is if we only served one part, then we couldn't offset and really cover the digital divide.
And you mentioned, like, in Okaloosa County, they have a very active chamber.
They do.
You must be having a very positive impact on real estate value as you're lighting up residents and buildings and so forth. Are they seeing that impact?
Yeah, I mean, they feel it, and this is a great question, actually, that you're bringing up, Gary, or a great point. We talk about this a lot. It's we're not seeing, like, the National Association of Realtors or anything apply, like, what is the added value of having quality broadband. We wish we could get great numbers, but anecdotally, the developers in these areas are reaching out to us as fast as they can. They know they need adequate broadband in their developments, and you know, in Blue Water Bay, which is where we're building next in Florida, there's 52 HOAs, but the HOAs have been more than welcoming for us to come into these things. So yes, there's a perceived value, obviously, and as a recent home buyer, again, I needed adequate broadband. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to build it where I'm going to move to, but if it wasn't me building it, I'd look for that. So yeah, there's an intrinsic value. It's just no one's been able to communicate anything percentage-wise I could communicate.
Well, I'm sure they will, because everybody wants to live at the beach, work from home at the beach.
Exactly.
So, well, Jody, there's a million questions in here, so hopefully you can, we'll provide those questions to you and you can get back to people offline. But
yes, happy to do that.
Congratulations. Also, really appreciate you as a veteran that you serving veterans here,
Thanks.
making sure their communities have broadband. So that's really important as well.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we just really appreciate your insights and congratulations on your success so far. And we hope that you light up all these rural areas, especially those where I'm going to be visiting soon.
Wonderful. Yep. Come on over. Thank you so much.
Right. Well, I want, so thanks everybody for joining us today. I'm going to look forward to getting back together next Wednesday. We're going to be discussing scaling the broadband workforce development for BEAD and beyond with FBA board member Mark Boxer of OFS and the Fiber Broadband Association's Vice President of Research and Workforce Development, Deb Kish, as they discuss our Optic Path course and certification, as well as our workforce development plans and how these are going to be able to help you meet the challenges ahead of us. So please join us next week for workforce development, and hope you guys have a great February.